Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. This time I want to create this image here, and we are starting with this rendering. So we want to create all this greenery, the trees, and we do some overlays here to blend in the building on the left. And I want to make some light adjustments, some color adjustments. And yeah, in the first part of this tutorial today we're going to create all the greenery. And before we start, I want to quickly show you around in the 3D scene. So just for you to get the idea, it's a very basic scene. I've modeled the two buildings and I was using some Megascan assets here for the stone wall, for the timber construction. I have some nice texture here for the floors. And in the background, I've placed some nice 3D trees. So to get a nice reflection in the windows. And for the lighting, I was using very simple HDRI. So this is what we come up with if we hit the render button. And let's start by creating all the environment here in Photoshop. So first thing is I'm gonna grab the alpha copy, the alpha channel, and I'm gonna mask out the background. So now we can bring in a nice sky. I'm using this one here. You can find it for free in the free sky spec 2 from the website. I'm gonna also place a link in the description. And of course, also for this tutorial, you can download the PSD file with all the passes. So if you want to take part, if you want to follow along, you can just download this PSD file, and of course you can use your own sky images and grass images and make your own version of it. All right, so I'm gonna punch in some contrast here for the sky. Other than that, I think the colors match very nicely with the HDRI that we chose. So I'm gonna start organizing everything and put it into groups, assign colors to it. So it's just easier for us to edit things, especially later on if you have multiple layers here. And yeah, the next part is I have some passes here that I was setting up in Corona, and we have this one text map pass, which is kind of an AO pass. So if we switch this to normal, you can see what it looks like. It has all these edges in here. That edges here comes from the 3D geometry, so we can use that to sharpen our image kind of. So if we want to accentuate those lines here, we can use color burn or multiply for that pass. And I only want to make this visible on the wooden museum structure. So I'm gonna use this buildings mask and mask it out. But I noticed there's this kind of white edge coming with it, and I want to get rid of that. So I'm gonna select the mask. So I want to make the mask smaller, kind of. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to modify it, contract it by 2 pixels. And if I invert it with Command I and hit Alt Delete while having a black color in the foreground, we can get rid of this white edge here. So now if I bring down the opacity, you can see what it does. It's really just a slight touch, but it gives us some more focus here on the wooden museum building. So that's what we want. And in the next step, I want to bring in some background. So this one is from the background collection. Of course, you can also find on the website. And I just need to find a good spot here. Of course, we need to place it in the background. And let's call this background, assign a color to it. And let's just transform it a bit. Yeah, I think this looks nice. Let's stretch it a bit. Of course, it needs to kind of fit the dimensions from our building, but I think this one looks nice. I think it looks a bit dark, so I want to brighten it up. But first I'm gonna put the layer mode to normal. And let me just quickly show you something. If I exaggerate this and leave it as on pass through, you can see that it will also affect the sky. So this is why I put everything on normal. So I want to just brighten up the midtones a bit. All right. So I instantly noticed we have this white glow or white edge around our rendering that is appearing when I put a darker background to the image. So I'm gonna use a contract here for the selection of the mask. So I'm going to make it smaller. Hit Command I again to invert the selection, and with a simple soft brush, black soft brush, I can make this mask smaller by 1 pixel, and we get rid of this white edge here. So of course I could also set up this a background inside of Corona and make it invisible for the mask. So this way I think we could also avoid this white edge, but I think it's okay like this. All right, so next step is I want to bring in some Meadow here, and this one is from the Meadows Photopack. And since I'm going to use it in the middle ground or the background of the image, I want to get rid of those foreground blades of grass. So I'm going to use a spot healing tool for that. You can just roughly go over it. It won't be that visible. And of course you could also use a content aware for that, but sometimes I want to still do things manually. So let's place that here in the scene. All right, so of course we need to place it underneath the building. So I'm gonna use the mask again from the wooden structure from the museum, and of course we need to invert the mask now. And of course we need to get rid of those parts where there's this pathway and the building on the left. Fortunately we have some masks for that, so I'm gonna mask out those parts also, but on the right mask, like this. And now we can bring back the opacity, and the rest I can just get rid of with a polygon lasso, like this. All right. So in the background, there's still some building that comes from this image. I'm gonna mask that out using a brush. I have a nice set of grass and meadow brushes that you can also download for free at the shop. So especially for this kind of meadows from the Meadows Photopack, they work very well together. So of course we want to hide this structure here, and therefore I'm using a polygon selection and just brush over those wooden beams here to blend them in. Easy as that. All right. So now what's missing is a shadow underneath. So we could paint in the shadow manually, which is fine. But we also have this shadow pass that we could use. So I'm gonna link that to the Meadows layer and bring down the opacity. And of course we need to do some editing because obviously the shadow wouldn't be visible in the foreground. So with our grass brush we can bring it back a bit. If we bring that back down the opacity, we can see a bit better what's going on. And yeah, of course, also on the wooden structure here, there would be no shadow visible. So I'm going to edit that. Okay, this looks nice to me. So let's start to organize our scene again. So I'm gonna assign a group here, call this Meadows and grass. First need to find the right color, of course. Okay, and you can see the two green spots in the foreground. We need to find something for that, and I want to place a nice lawn here. I like this one very much. It has some nice details in the foreground. So I'm going to bring it in. Okay, this was the wrong one. Let me close down some of the stuff we don't need anymore. All right. Now we just need to scale it and kind of find the right horizon line for this lawn. And I'm gonna use the ID pass here to select the right surfaces and mask them, or mask the grass image with that. So you can see it's a bit too saturated and also maybe a bit too bright for our scene, but let me first organize this further here and put it into a group before we edit the grass a bit more. So I'm gonna put this to normal, and I'm gonna use a hue saturation filter and reduce the saturation quite a bit. Also bring down the brightness a bit, something like this. So of course you can eyeball this, and which is totally fine. But as I showed you in previous tutorials, there's other ways to check your saturation and your color and your brightness. So I'm using again this Photoshop Essentials pack from Horoma, and I'm going to use this check filter setup just to check my colors and my saturation. So you can see if I crank this up with the extra filter, we can see better what's happening here. Yeah, so I love this setup very much, especially when working with different photos you want to bring together. You can easily check your colors, and in this case you can see the lawn has different green tones, and if I put this more in the range of the yellowish tones, it fits better with the background image. All right, now, so what we need to do now is now the edges of the grass and the lawn look very unnatural. So first, I'm going to edit that in the background. We wanna make this shadow visible again here, and for the background, I will just leave a very small strip of grass here. So something like this. And of course, for the foreground, we can just use this brush again. Just need to increase it a bit. So, but let me first check our mask. And there's some areas we can get rid of. So I'll just hit Alt Delete to paint them black. And for the foreground, yeah, let's use this grass brush. Of course, you can play around with all the different grass and meadow brushes, and ideally you can combine some different brushes to achieve better results in your masking, so to have a more variety in it. For the sake of the tutorial, I'll show you just the quick way of doing things here, but you can totally use some more time and detail those masks a bit more. But this works also, I think. Like, also I want to show you how easily it is, how quickly you can arrange an image with some good photo reference. It's really a quick way of achieving nice results, I think. Yeah, just want to make this edge to look a bit more natural. So nice. All right. So we have some grass, some meadow, some background image now. The meadow is lacking a bit of the lighting in the scene, so I'm gonna put a gray layer on top, use it on overlay. You've maybe seen this in my previous tutorials. This is the method for me to implement some lighting in our photo reference, in our photo matte painting assets, I mean. So we can use the burn tool, or in this case the dodge tool, to lighten up things. So it's easy this way to introduce some lighting here for our photos, and to paint in some of the light that comes from our rendering. All right. So now I want to start to bring in some more trees. I like the background as it is, but I think we can make this building, the wooden building, sit in a bit better in its surroundings. So right now the background is kind of a flat layer sitting in the background. And if we bring in some more trees, some more additional trees, I think the transition is a bit nicer to from the building to the background. And also I want to brighten up this tree here, for example, so we can make the light direction that is coming here from the left a bit more visible. So if it hits this light, if some light hits this tree, we can indicate that, and I think it works well. So I'm gonna bring in a second tree here with the same lighting direction and place it here in the background. So I think it also adds some sense of scale. So especially the left tree here, it works nice in combination with the building. So let me add some curves to that one. And this one is lit a bit more even. So if I want to introduce a bit more of a kind of a lighting direction, we can also use this overlay method again, and with a dodge brush lighten up the left side of the tree, and with the burn tool introduce some shade here. So something like that. All right. So since I really like those trees, I'm gonna put in another one. And find a nice spot for it. Yeah, something like this. And again, I'm gonna brighten it up a bit and maybe paint in some shade, some shadow here. So I'm gonna use this overlay again and paint in some darker areas here for that tree. All right. So now we are left with this one tree, which I want to place in front of the building. I kind of like the idea that the building sits there very nicely inside the surrounding, kind of. So I want to place this one tree in front of it, and also it creates a bit more depth here. And I like this tree because it doesn't it's not too big, and it doesn't hide anything from the facade, so it blends in with the background. Actually, that gives us something, and some kind of some sense of scale also. I just need to use a grass brush here again and mask the stem of the tree. And I'm going to use the curves again to brighten it up a bit. Perfect. All right. So I'm gonna call this foreground tree. And one more thing I wanna do in this part of the tutorial is the grass looks kind of flat right now to me. So again, I'm going to use the same method with a gray layer on top to fix that. And set it to overlay. And I want to introduce a darker edge here for the grass parts. This way the grass is yeah, we add volume to it, so you can see immediately if I start to introduce this shadow or this shade here for the grass, it feels thicker, like it gets volume, and of course it looks more realistic. So it's very easy way of making things work, making those photos work. And also for the background, I'm using this technique. Right. So here I noticed the mask looks a bit wild here in the background. I'm gonna use a brush, and I'm gonna try to make it look a bit more even. Looks a bit unnatural like it is. So something like that looks better to me. Alright, just a quick heads up for the next tutorial. In the next part, I want to show you some techniques to blend in the building on the left. So I'm going to use some decals like leaking, and I want to place it on top of the existing building and on top of the exterior floors. So to give it some kind of age or patina kind of, and to make it feel more natural in the end. So I hope you enjoyed this part of the tutorial, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you will be notified when the next tutorial next week is going to be released. Thank you for watching, and yeah, see you next time.